Good day everyone, I am Michael, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is Impact Damages, Fact or Fictions. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, James Zack. Jim is the Senior Advisor at Ankara Construction Forum. Mr. Zack has, for 47 years, worked on private and public projects throughout the US and in 28 countries abroad. So now I would like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, James.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's discussion on impact damages in construction claims, both fact and fiction. Introduction to the topic. First, we're going to talk about some terms here. Cumulative impact is a frequently used term thrown around a lot on project sites. Cumulative impact or disruption is the effect of a series of changes, design clarifications, or late responses to RFIs on labor productivity and project cost. Disruption is defined as any change in the method of performance or planned work sequence contemplated by the contractor at the time the project was bid that prevents the contractor from actually performing work in that manner. And impact costs were discussed by another judge and described as additional costs occurring as a result of the loss of productivity. Loss of productivity is also termed inefficiency. Impact costs are simply increased labor costs that stem from disruption to labor productivity resulting from a change in working conditions caused by a contract change or a contract change order. Looking at trying to put this in a graphical form, and I don't pretend to be a graphic artist by any stretch of the imagination, but the impact of a single change is trying to be displayed here. The three change orders here are depicted in the red, the brown, and the light tan dot. Contractors do not have to prove critical path delay in order to recover damages. And cumulative impact, at least in the United States, is recognized as a constructive change. The basis of the cumulative impact claim is the effect of changes, delays, suspensions, and/or acceleration. So let's take a look at some recognized examples of cumulative impact or higher labor rate period. Material escalation costs. Overcrowding is when you put multiple trades. Undermanning, provided that the undermanning is caused by owner delays or suspension of work. The contractor seeking recovery must submit evidence that the number, timing, and effect of the changes that were issued impacted its ability to plan and perform its work. When does cumulative impact start? Well, typically it starts on a project when multiple changes, suspensions, disruptions, and things like that start to interact with one another. The problem is often the impacts are not recognized by the contractor. The other part of cumulative impact is the foreseeability issue. Cumulative impact results in multiple changes. A lot of times you hear the argument, these impacts were foreseeable and should have been included when the changes were priced. Therefore, the contractor must prove impact is unforeseeable or simply not known. I want to explore 11 types of impact damage claims. I want to identify the legitimate claim, explain the game, and offer some recommended defenses. I want to put in here, I'm going to provide you some potential language. Extended field office overhead is an accepted element of changes and has been going back to at least the 1940s. If they can meet all these requirements, the contractor is normally entitled to time extension and extended field office overhead. It's a claim for additional cost of adding field staff resources to meet contract requirements and complete on time. The problem with the claim? Contractor can't really prove entitlement under the contract. Some defenses? Well, number one, start during the pre-bid or equipment inefficiency claim. Contractors may assert the equipment inefficiency claims using the following formula. The actual equipment cost divided by the total labor cost equals the equipment cost adder for every labor cost added. But equipment costs normally increase only when they're idled or extended. RFIs, request for information, you may see them sometimes under RFC, request for clarification. I've seen submittals provided on RFI forms. The question that I've often asked some of my clients when these things start to happen, do you feel like you're buried in paper? Well, yeah, you may be. The claim is, I bid a fully designed job. Though the contractor's a caveat here, a warning, you don't include a specific RFI clause in the contract. Little effort is made to defend against the paper game. So defending against games, let's start with defining critical terms. Define what's a drawing or plan clarification. So why is the definition important? It prevents misunderstanding of the terms and how they're used. It establishes procedures. It prevents abuse of the process. Then include an RFI clause. RFIs can only be submitted in writing. Include the right to reject if it's not an RFI. Include a response time. And then establishing the same thing, responses are clarifications, not directed changes. And then establish an in-house review system. And then track your return and response times. Lost productivity and lost efficiency claims. These are soft dollar cost claims, and they are allowed in some cases, don't get me wrong. This is one of the studies that is frequently used. You'll notice in the left-hand column, there are 15 independent causes of lost productivity. The problem with using these studies based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics Bulletin 791 and 791A, but they're routinely submitted as proof. The factors times the as-planned labor hours times the labor rate. It identifies, sometimes they use comparable project studies. I identify a similar project. Challenge the studies. They're not the preferred method. This is a defense. It's unrelated to this project. Other defenses, labor resource load, the baseline schedule. This is going to cause a 90-day delay, but it's all because you don't have enough guys. Measured mile studies for lost productivity are the gold standard. Now, the weakness, and there is one, it assumes an unimpacted period. Delay impacts. Acceleration. Acceleration is the deliberate or the accidental speeding up or shortening the time of performance. Guess what? There's an accelerated delay claim. Forensic schedule analysis or delay analysis done by the contractor. You should have a clause for time impact analysis. The time, we call that a time impact analysis. Leaving the time element, let's look at inspection impacts. Over inspection. Here the contractor, the owner rather, inspection activities interfered with planned work. Under inspection, this is a new type of clause, a new type of claim. A defense in your inspection clause, it reduces potential impact damage claims. Another clause, contractor quality control clause, and with the appropriate language, it should reduce impact damage claims. Non-conforming, another defense, non-conforming work clause. Be true, but it provides the opportunity to resolve the issues promptly and move it to the next phase. Another defense, inspector authority clause. Establish the authority to reject work. Changes the contract requirements. They must provide written notice within 5 working days. Failure to give notice equals waiver of claim. Subcontractor impacts. These are claims based on subcontractor, supplier, or supplier non-performance. A lot of the argument that, well, lost revenue impacts. When owner causes delay, contractors typically are trying to delay costs, but how do you price it? The defense, in your payment for changes clause, when compensable delay arises, specify how to calculate the delay. Disallow loss of revenue. Labor impact claims. It's a form of daily delay cost calculation. Generic claims. These are claims with no specifics. Generally, it's a delay, what I call a delay damage and disruption claim. Changes are caused by ripple damage not paid for. Number of RFIs and RFCs. Severely impacted productivity and field costs. Typically supported by charts and statistics showing. Part of the problem is contracts don't specify how to present claims. Within 45 days after written notice, the contractor shall submit a properly documented claim. You want the general introduction of the background from the contractor's perspective to this event or these events, and then begin each new issues on a new page. Productivity exhibits, summary of issues and damages. Supporting documentation for entitlement, these things, for causation, this discussion, for damages, this discussion. Assess the entitlement through technical analysis. The typical project impacts are on this box. Types of cost issues here, methodology, total cost, modified total cost claims. It is the most common cost, the most common claim filed on the project. Why? Because it's the easiest. The claim rests on 4 assumptions. They must document the event each event that entitles the contractor to recovery. What I've tried to show you that for each of these claims, there are a lot of games played with these soft cost claims. And there's protection available for owners if you plan in advance.
Thank you, James.
I want to thank you folks for taking the time to attend the webinar. I hope you found it useful. Our goal in doing these things is to provide practical information to folks like yourselves you can take back to your job site tomorrow morning and hopefully put into use. Again, I thank you for attending. I hope you found the material provided worthwhile and that your time spent useful. With that, I'll turn it back over to Michael to close on behalf of Online Audio Webinar.
So that does conclude the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead.